My objective is to bring in good people and help them be successful. The question I'm always asking is, what can I do to help those people be successful at what they know how to do? I think everything is insurable. For the right price, terms and conditions, everything should be.
Just quickly, what compelled you to choose the song that allow you to have this cold beverage while you're building a mutual group?
I chose this one because it makes me laugh when I think about the role that G Love played in my wife and I getting together.
Well, welcome, Coleman. We're going to jump right into this. You gave us an amazing set list to go through, so it was tough to pick some of the songs. I'm really happy with the choices, and I hope you are too. Before we get into the details, Mariah, can you play just a bit of the song for us?
Aye, oh, let's go. Aye, oh, let's go. Aye, oh, let's go. Aye, oh, let's go. The falling in the straight line. They're going through a tight one. The kids on the dilemma. Let's drink it. The pilot in the back seat. The generation is. The taste in the back seat.
So great song, and it's of course the Blitzkrieg sung by American punk rock band the Ramones. I recently heard that Joey Ramone really was a big fan of Maria Bartiromo, the morning news host here in New York City. Right now she's on Fox News, but they wrote a song about her, and that was truly about her. But this particular song was released in February 1976 as their debut single in the US. It was the opening track on the band's self-titled album. Great guitar riffs. I mean, you can't help but move once that song begins playing. And in fact, in 2008, Rolling Stone placed it number 18 of the top 100 greatest guitar songs of all time. So imagine that. Um, tell us why you chose a song.
Well-deserved accolades for it. I love that song. I chose it for several reasons. I think it's just the perfect pop song. I know it's a punk song, but it is, the Ramones are on the poppy side of punk. It's simple, it's catchy, it's fun. Anyone could have written it. Anyone can play it. It's one of the maybe 4 songs I know how to play on the guitar. And
Good job.
it's amazing. But it was also, I was exposed to the Ramones when I was growing up as a young kid, and my 2 biggest influences, music-wise, were my older brother and my older sister. And my older sister, 4 years older than me, she was a punk, and her tastes were the Ramones and the Sex Pistols and the Clash and all that stuff, and it led me down a long path towards, I guess, the genre I listen to more than anything today is like 90s indie rock. I'm a 90s kid, and I love all the 90s indie rock, but I feel like it all started with punk rock, or maybe even further back, the Velvet Underground. But I think the Ramones did it as well or better than anyone else on the planet. So I can listen to it all day long. I can pick up the guitar once a year and try to play it again and see if I still have it.
You ever see them in concert?
I did see them once. Yeah, it was fantastic. Just one time, Birmingham, Alabama, where my parents moved. I grew up in Tampa, but they moved to Birmingham when I went to college, and got to see them. I forget where, at some music club, and they were as good as I had only seen them the one time, but they were as good as I could have imagined them, because this would have been back in the 90s. So they were well on in their careers.
Yeah, that's great. So you play guitar.
Well, no, really. I took guitar lessons and I tried to learn how to play guitar. And like I said, I learned about 4 songs and then gave it up.
Okay. Um, did that cause you to go into insurance, determining you weren't going to be a guitar player then?
Yes, possibly. When I think back as a child, and what I wanted to be when I grew up, I do think rock star was top of the list for a long time. And I used to write the lyrics to songs that I had in my head, but I couldn't play an instrument. I tried, and I didn't try hard enough because I know it just takes practice. But I was never a natural with musical instruments. But I wrote. A good, full album worth of songs that never got put to tape because no one knew how to write the music for them.
Wow. What? So let's just explore that for a half second. What were the songs about?
Oh, well, it was a weird collection of what I guess a 9-year-old might come up with as a rock song at the time, and some of them were heavy metal influence, some were punk rock influence, so they were about everything from bubblegum to Halloween.
Wow, that's interesting. Were your older siblings musicians, or are they just into music as well?
They were just into music. I think our whole family appreciated music, but none of us really played it too well, But I grew up, especially my siblings, were all very much into music. My brother was more of a metalhead. He was into hair metal and stuff like that too, which I don't. I enjoyed when I was a kid, but I don't listen to as much. But um, AC/DC, um, Black Sabbath, Motorhead, things like that he got me into. Those were kind of the two early influences. My father was a Buddy Holly fan, Johnny Cash, classic sort of 50s rock and roll and country music, which I also absolutely love.
That's great. Um, yeah, in my family, I also learned how to play guitar, but I would not call myself a guitar player. And but there's at least one member of my family who is quite the musician. Not famous in any way, nothing like that, but it's funny how it takes that repetition and the continued practice, and, sometimes life gets in the way of all that.
Maybe it skipped a generation with me. My kids were pretty good growing up, but then they've given it up since then. And my wife could play saxophone. She was in a band in high school. So maybe they got it from her side of the family. I don't know, but they were not bad. And but then yeah, now they're in college and they've stopped playing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it definitely skips generations. My mother was an excellent piano player and could sing, and my father played trumpet professionally for a while. And my brother and I can't do anything. I mean, I played handbells in the church handbell choir. That was it. I mean, I can read a C and a D and ring the bell when they tell me to, but that was about it. Um, but so of course that begs the question. Okay, well then I got to do something else. I'm not going to be a musician either. How did you find your way into the industry?
Yeah, it was a little bit of, I don't want to call it an accident, but I had to change in careers pretty early on. I was a recruiter for about 3 years in London, and loved what I was doing in London. Was making good money right out of college doing executive search, and came to move to Boston. I won't name the company, but I got in with a company that I thought at the time was going to be amazing. It was the .com bubble. It was business casual, free coffee, um, full brick walls in the office, and I just thought this is going to be a great company to work for. But it was, if you've ever seen Boiler Room or one of those kinds of movies, that was the environment. So
Oh boy.
I decided to get out of recruitment, and an opportunity came up at Liberty Mutual, which I had not planned to get into insurance, but I thought I would explore it. It was a good opportunity. Working for Mark Toohey, who went on to do a lot of great things at Liberty. He's retired now, but most recently was the chief of staff to the CEO and ran a lot of businesses over at Liberty. And he was the first person to take a chance on me with no insurance experience and brought me in as a affinity program coordinator, which was half marketing, which I had majored in college in marketing, and half sales. And I had been doing as a recruiter, I think you would call that a sales job. So I felt like I was a good fit in terms of my experience and my education. And Mark agreed and took a chance and gave me an opportunity. I did that for about a year and a half before I got into underwriting.
Hmm. It's interesting you comment on the sales piece. We frequently don't tell underwriters that they're salespeople as they come into insurance organizations, but that is what we do. That was probably great background for you.
Absolutely. I agree. In underwriting, I think there are two things that are most critical that make the difference between a good underwriter and a great underwriter. And relationship management is one of the two. And then time management is the other thing. It's not easy to juggle all those balls and manage your desk and get quotes out the door on time. But if you can do those two things and you're half intelligent, you can be a great underwriter.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Would you say that those kinds of items have sort of driven your career as you've progressed through and made your way to, where you are today? That kind of the principles that guide you?
I think so. Yeah. I think I'm also a very curious person, and I think that's helped me in my career. I like to dig in and try to understand how things work and why we do things the way we do things, and just ask a lot of questions around the why and get to that next level. And it's driven me to become a little bit more technical than a lot of the people I came up with. Um, and I also get bored easy, so I've gone into a lot of different kinds of underwriting. Probably the best example is today at the mutual group and the idea that we're going to bring on multiple members with each company having different challenges and different opportunities in their niche focus, and the ability to maybe bring some of that experience to bear in working with those companies.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Connie and I have discussed this quite a bit. You think about what we value in an underwriter. One of my key components of that is being curious, right? If you're interested in the world, you're going to be in good shape, right? If you're not, you sort of, that I don't think that bodes well, because you really, to your point, you're really going to have to spend some time looking at risk, understanding it, trying to figure out, the best options for managing it, right? And the only way to do that is to be interested in it, you know.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah. If you don't enjoy it, you're not going to be good at it. It's it's a pretty fascinating career if you enjoy the technical aspect of it and the people aspect of it. It's a fantastic career.
Can't agree more.
Yeah, agreed. All right, well, let's continue. We started off with a bang, and I think we're just going to keep it going. Mariah, can you play a little bit of the next song that I'm certain most of our audience will know? Coleman likes his guitars. Well, that song, of course, Paranoid, Black Sabbath. You'd mentioned them earlier, so it'd be good to get into this a little bit, which is also the title of the second album by the band Black Sabbath. Released January 71 in the U.S., the album contains several of the band's signature songs, all of which I know Connie knows well, including Iron Man, War Pigs, and the title track, which was, incidentally, curiously enough, the band's only top 20 hit, reaching number 4 on the UK singles chart. It did reach number 1 on the U.S. Billboard hard or hot hard rock songs chart during the brief time between Ozzy's final live show, July 5th of this past year, and his death on the 22nd of July. So we know you're a guitar guy, Coleman, but any other reason why you selected this tune?
Yeah. Well, is there a better guitar riff in music. I don't know if there is. I think that is just an amazing song. And the second reason is I mentioned my brother, who was more on the metal side and a big influence on my getting into music. And I think it's just one of the best heavy metal songs that is out there. And I think Ozzy was so talented. I think it's a very interesting story to follow his career and how he was perceived in the public eye. Early on, I remember when I was growing up, a lot of people thought he was a bad influence on kids and he worshiped the devil. And
It bit the heads off doves, I think. I don't even know if that was an old wives' tale or true or what.
he was a little crazy for sure. And a lot of that, who knows what's true. He was a performer and he knew how to drive publicity, but he ended up being someone that was beloved by most of the people in the country, and his family became, you know, personalities on TV, and his wife. And I think it was great to see how he just evolved in the public eye, and that farewell show that you mentioned, how many people tuned in for that, and said their farewell to Black Sabbath, and that band just, I think, was it weeks before he died?
Yep.
Wasn't long after at all. But he was just a great, Black Sabbath was never the same after he left. Some might argue, actually, if you're a Dio fan, but I think Ozzy was the talent that made that band special early on, and they became the blueprint for so many bands after them that borrowed from that heavy, crunchy guitar sound that they pretty much created.
So I personally am a Dio fan and was not an Ozzy Osbourne fan for a long time. But I think his leaving the band was great for him ultimately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that. I have a lot of friends that are very into music that would argue all day for Dio and love Dio. And maybe I need to listen to more of that music. 'Cause I just never really listened to him as much after he left.
Yeah. Well, I'd be happy to share some suggestions for you.
Yeah, great.
Um, to the end, Paranoid was widely regarded as one of the greatest and most influential heavy metal albums of all time, often cited as a key influence for development of the genre. To your point, Coleman, ranked number one on the Rolling Stones list of the 100 greatest metal albums of all time in 2017, and number 139 on its list of 500 greatest albums of all time. That was done in 2020. Uh, I'm not sure paranoid is the right word, but when you think about the insurance space and your career, what concerns you? Sort of what interests you in terms of where the industry is going, and where where it needs to improve, or where it's been super successful.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. I think you absolutely do need to be paranoid in this business, and always staying one step ahead of the loss trends, and whether that be economic inflation, social inflation. There are I think one of the cardinal sins in underwriting is getting surprised. It's sometimes you make a bet and sometimes you have a loss, and the loss comes from exactly what you underwrote, and you knew there was a chance that the wind might blow and you might have a loss, and you took a calculated bet on that risk, and maybe it didn't pay off this year, but it pays off over time. The worst thing I think you can do is get hit with losses that you just never anticipated happening. And so you always have to be asking those questions in paranoid. What is the next emerging risk that we need to be worried about? What is, what is a, source of litigation on this risk that I'm not thinking about? And, making sure that you're covering your bases, because we've learned the hard way in this business over the last 20 years that when it comes to liability, things just keep getting more challenging in the market. There's more awareness of exposures. There's more awareness with litigators and with claimants, and society as a whole has become a lot more willing to, deliver extreme verdicts for people that are injured, especially if there's any real form of negligence involved. So, and sometimes even when there's not. So yeah, I think we have to stay paranoid and just really canvass the landscape of emerging risks and stay on top of it and make sure you have structure around the process of doing that and that you're socializing, what those risks are, not just with your leadership team, but with your frontline underwriters and what they're seeing, with the claims team and what they're seeing, with outside companies and reinsurers and what they're thinking about. I think there's a whole network to tap into to make sure that you're not going to get surprised by the results that you underwrite to.
Where are you, what sources do you use to, you mentioned a few of them, claims and what have you, but are there publications or things that you follow that kind of keep you abreast of what's happening and what's emerging?
Yeah, I think there's some great publications out there that you can rely on. IBNR Weekly is probably the deepest content and when it comes to insurance trends. If you by Dowling, if you not read
Big
that,
fan. Big fan.
take a look. In terms of emerging risks, I find the reinsurance market to be the best source of information. They see things across multiple books of business, and if you have strong relationships with your reinsurance brokers and with your network of reinsurance carriers, I think that that is a great source of information to understand what you're not seeing in your own book of business, but that is starting to bubble up in other pockets. I mean, one good thing about our business, in many cases, the products that carriers are using in the market are publicly available, and filings are publicly available, and you can keep your eye on what other carriers are doing. If you have, S&P and other resources, you can follow any filing that comes out related to, whatever it might be, cannabis or abuse or, any emerging sort of liability exposure that you're worried about for your book of business. You can keep an eye on what your competitors are doing and pay attention. And, maybe somebody has seen an angle before you've seen it, and you can learn real quickly from what they're doing and take similar steps.
Yeah, I mean, I have obviously grown up in property my whole career, and I'm grateful for being able to spend time with Connie, learn more about casualty. But you know, I wonder whether there are risks in the casualty space, and maybe each of you could comment on this. Whether there are some uninsurable risks, or do we believe that at some point we have enough moxie in the industry to figure out how to solve some of these things?
I'll let you go first, Coleman.
I think everything is insurable for the right price, terms and conditions. Everything should be. There are some areas within the industry where it's still so new and companies are still trying to figure out how to do that. If you want to compete in that marketplace, it may not be completely rational yet, and you might need to wait for that to mature to the point that you can compete with rational pricing terms and conditions. There's some areas where I know I'm in over my head. If someone brings, social or litigation financing risk, first of all, I'm, personally not interested in writing that kind of business because you're kind of getting in bed with the enemy and supporting social, litigation financing. But I think that's a risky bet to be making, and something that maybe over time for some companies might make sense. But yeah, I think over time, almost every risk can be figured out and can be underwritten profitably, whether the market supports that or not. I think that's the key question. It's easy to make money on a risk. It's easy to win a piece of business. The trick is doing both at the same time.
Yeah, I think you sort of encompassed what I probably would include too. I probably wouldn't have come out so boldly, but I tend to agree with you that risk can be figured out. It's whether or not the price we want for it, the terms the insurance industry wants for it, is something that the customer is willing to pay. One of the things that I would add is, the especially on the casualty side, because that's what I'm so much more familiar with. Things evolve so frequently, right? I just was looking at glyphosate, right? A couple of years ago, it was maybe not a couple of years ago, but it was brand new, and there was all this talk about what glyphosate was doing and whether or not it should be banned. And of course, all sorts of activities and lawsuits happened. And then it was never determined that there was any causality to some of the medical injuries that were being alleged. Now, all of a sudden, there are a lot of holes being poked into that research that a lot of the insurance community probably relied on and made decisions around. So I think one of the things about casualty is it continues to evolve. And once you think you have it figured out, it comes back around and new news, you don't have it so figured out anymore. It is one of the things that is frustrating, but also that I love about our industry.
Absolutely agreed.
All right. We ready to move to the next song?
Sure.
All right. So Paranoid, a great song. So now we're going to turn it down from 11, if you're familiar with Spinal Tap, to another very catchy tune. And I said immediately when we got your list, Coleman, this is a great list. I couldn't wait to get into it. This particular band is now in regular rotation in my own Spotify playlist. I'd not heard of the band or the song before. Shame on me. But thank you for bringing it to my attention. But it's been added to our own Spotify playlist too. So I hope people will follow it there. But the band is G Love and Special Sauce, and the song is Cold Beverage. So Mariah, do you mind playing a little of this?
Yo, cool, I get a cold beverage. I need some leverage. It's sweaty outside, so lemonade will be like a swipe on the top to a big check. Yeah, a bar girl, a drink by the girls, got the bay on the phone, 4 I got the mic stick. If you like it, take the tea, then come along with me. Summertime is still bubble, give me no bubbles. Glass the mic, and I dance up a roll and small titty side. Yeah, feel the gold and bring your own beverage. Just make so it's cold. I like cold beverage, yeah. I like cold beverage, yeah. I like cold beverage, yeah.
It's crazy catchy.
It really is. I was such a huge Sublime fan, and of course, they're so much like Sublime. I just thought it was fantastic. So thank you, Coleman. The song's from the album G Love and Special Sauce, released in 1994 and was certified gold after selling 500,000 copies. The song became a college radio staple. And Coleman, as you may sit and enjoy a cold beverage in Boston from time to time, I'm not sure what that might be, but how do you reflect on the Mutual Group's journey so far?
Oh, yeah.
Didn't know I was going there, did you?
Oh no, yeah, it's been a fascinating journey. I joined the Mutual Group in July of last year, and I was a big believer in the value proposition and how well it would play in the market with mutual companies. Yeah, and I am a firm believer today that we are on the cusp of building something amazing and big and wonderful. And it's a very simple concept. The Mutual Group was launched in January of 2024, simultaneous with the announcement that Guide One would be the inaugural member. And the idea is to deliver all the operational capabilities that a mutual company needs to run their business. But more importantly, helping them really thrive, not just compete, but thrive and grow and expand within a very competitive market. And there's a lot of great mutual companies out there in the industry, great people, great brands, strong roots in their community. But they are often at a disadvantage against the larger stock insurance companies. They can't as easily raise capital. Being a mutual, many of them are subscale compared to the large stock companies, and just have a difficult time competing on the same level when it comes to talent, technology, AI, data and analytics, reinsurance buying power, those kinds of things. So the concept was to build a platform that mutual companies could leverage to compete on a level playing field with those larger, more sophisticated companies. And that is what we've been building since I joined the company. And, we had a great foundation in Guide One, and the great teams and people and products that they had. It was a fantastic foundation to build on. But we've made so many investments since I've joined, investments that are helping guide one today. But as we add number two, number three, are going to really be, a compelling opportunity for companies to do something that, maybe they can't do on their own, or with the platform behind them, they can do a lot faster or a lot more successfully. We've been investing in talent, first and foremost, bringing on a lot of people at the leadership team level within underwriting. Just as an example, within underwriting, we've created 3 new VP level roles just over the last several months. We've created 3 new director level roles within underwriting. These are add to staff and roles where we were able to bring people in from the outside or promote from within, but bring in some people that have worked at some great companies in the business and know how to build a top tier underwriting platform. So we're investing a lot in people. We're upgrading the technology and the systems that we use, going into the cloud with the Guidewire platform, building a new quick find issue system for our bot portal, a new agency portal. These are not easy commitments to make and investments to make as an insurance company. It creates a lot of risk for mutuals to invest so significantly in tech upgrades and things like that. So we're able to take that off the plate of the members, invest in the platform ourselves, and put it to work for the member companies. So I won't go on too much into all of the things that we've done, but it touches on AI, and we're using AI today, and there's a lot more to come. It touches on data and analytics and automation, more sophistication in the underwriting process, more third-party data, things that will continue to make Guide One a better and better insurance company and help us bring on that next, member number 2, member number 3 as well.
Yeah, creating that ecosystem, I think, is pretty powerful, right? To your point, they get to avail themselves of some first class support, and then allow them to continue to do what they do best, support their communities and be really successful mutual insurance companies. But to your point, give them an
Yep.
opportunity to do some things they might otherwise be able to do just based on the cost of trying to do those things.
Right. And you hit on something really important there. In the process, they maintain their independence as an insurance company, and we are business partners. They're not owned by TNG. They remain, Guide One is a completely independent insurance company, and they set the strategy and the direction that they want their business to take. And our job is to bring it to life and execute on it.
Yeah, for sure. Just quickly, what compelled you to choose the song that allow you to have this cold beverage while you're building the mutual group?
It's a great song, first and foremost. And I chose this one because it makes me laugh when I think about the role that G Love played in my wife and I getting together. And not as a person, but as a band, as a song. I had just moved to London and met my wife the second day I was in town, but she had a boyfriend, and we sort of hit it off, and I felt some vibes there. But this boyfriend was in the picture, and one night we were at the pub, as you do in London, and we're having a couple of cold beverages, and we started talking about G Love and special sauce, and my now wife lights up and she says she loves G Love, and her boyfriend pipes in and says he's like a knockoff Disco Biscuits band, and the Disco Biscuits are better. And Disco Biscuits were a one-hit wonder in the 90s. I don't remember. I think they had one song that I know, not to knock the Disco Biscuits. I don't know them that well. But at the time I was arguing vehemently in favor of G Love, and so was my wife. And it ended up being a little bit of a wedge potentially that, got my feet in the door. And it was only a couple of weeks after that heated debate over G Love that they broke up and we got together. And what was funny about it,
Awesome.
beyond that story, but 25 years later, I'm on a plane with my wife, and she looks up several rows in front of us in the plane, and she goes, "I think that's G Love up there."
Come on.
I go, I hadn't seen him in a while, but he had sunglasses and a hat on. He looked like a rock star, but I couldn't tell it was G Love. But we get down to baggage claim, and he's standing there, and I can see that it's him, and the baggage isn't coming. And I never talk to celebrities. I just kind of generally will leave a celebrity alone if I see one. But I'm bored, standing there waiting on luggage. G Love's bored, standing there waiting on luggage, and I just decided to go up to him and tell him this story. And he was the most like gracious, like kind guy. He thought the story was great, and then he just stood there for 10 minutes asking me about my wife and my kids and how I moved to Boston and what I did. And I couldn't believe for 10 minutes it was like, he just can be more generous with his time. And my plan was to quickly tell him the story and then leave him alone, but he just was such a genuine guy. So made me even more of a G Love fan after that.
I agree. And for Connie and me, it once again validates music is so important in people's lives. It really establishes, specific points and specific memories and all that. And you're another shining example of that. Well, if we move from G Love, the next song, really interesting. And I think it shows your range of taste in music. And perhaps this is, for your earlier comment, father's influence. I didn't know the song when I first played it. It kind of blew me away, mostly because I was confused and thought I was going to hear an Alan Parsons song, but that couldn't be further from this. Mariah, can you tee up the next song for a bit, please?
You once told me, and I'll be damned if it did not come true. 20,000 roads I went down, 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 and they all led me straight back home to you. 'Cause I headed west to grow up with the country.
The song, that was Graham Parsons, not Alan Parsons, and the song is Return of the Grievous Angel. Just an absolutely lovely tune. What made you choose that song?
Yeah, lovely tune. He's one of my favorites. I do love country. I lean towards that older sort of country sound, the outlaw country, Merle Haggard, Townes Van Zandt, stuff like that. Johnny Cash, I mentioned. But Graham was one of the first ones that I really kind of fell in love with as an artist. And he started off in the Flying Burrito Brothers, which is a little bit more rocky, upbeat, but still country. And then he did a couple of solo records. This one, like a lot of them, he did with Emmylou Harris, who I'm sure you know, and her voice is beautiful. And I think it's just a like quintessential country song too, out with the truckers and the kickers and the cowboy angels and a good saloon in every single town. It just makes me think of road trips and this well, actually, with a lot of music I do, for some reason, I have very specific memories tied to songs, and I can remember where I was and what I was doing when I listened to songs. And it could be something really mundane, like in this case, I remember driving from Austin, Texas to New Orleans on a road trip with my wife, and us just playing Graham Parsons the whole way. And this was like 28 years ago. And I just remember listening to this specific song at a specific point in that journey and just enjoying the heck out of it. It's a great tune. He's got a great voice. He's a funny artist to dig into and learn about. He died, this part's not funny, it's tragic. He died way before his time. I think he was quite young. Sadly, died, I think, right before I was born, but he had a big influence on rock and roll in this country. He hung out with the Rolling Stones. When the Rolling Stones did Exile on Main Street, he was in their entourage, just hanging out with the Rolling Stones. And he heavily influenced Keith Richards and the music they started to gravitate towards when they went more country. He was a member of the Byrds for many years. A lot of their Sweetheart of the Rodeo. He plays on that and sings a couple of songs. So a lot of people don't know the name, but he's had a lot of influence on rock and roll as well as country in the U.S.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons people don't know it is because he died so young. To your point, he died before that song was even published. This was
Mm.
done
Yeah.
posthumously. And interestingly, in doing my research on the tune, because I hadn't heard him, and I'm a huge country fan too, and now I feel a little silly that I didn't know about him as much as I should. But Emmylou Harris, to your point, she's got an angelic voice, and she was basically an unknown at the time. They were singing together and doing those duets, and if you hear that, just even that little piece, I would encourage everyone to listen to the song in its fullest. The duet between them is just extraordinary. She just has a great, great voice, and then she went on to have a huge, career. And to your point, that song was that album and song was released in '74, and he died as 26 years old in September '73. Um, and one of the things I did get this quote from Emmy Lou, and she said this about Graham. Said, "I would say until I had met Graham and started working with him, I didn't really understand or have a real love or feel for country music. Like most of my generation, country music was politically incorrect for us at that point. It was associated with Republicans and the right wing and that sort of thing. He taught me the beauty and the poetry, the simplicity, the honesty in the music, and the love of harmony came from really singing with him. And that totally shows in the song. The harmony is just extraordinary. And to your point about the lyrics, unbuckling his Bible belt to go out and, wander around. I mean, that's just an excellent lyric. I mean, it's just really, really a good tune. And again, doing the research, the song itself to be a poetic road song about wandering, self-discovery, ultimately returning home to a loved one, kind of the things that you mentioned. And you've been a few places in your career so far. And how do you think that's shaped, your thinking and how you see the world and how you see the industry?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely benefited me. I worked most of my career at Liberty Mutual and would say only good things about Liberty. Had a fantastic career there. Had two different stints at Liberty, and I got to work with a lot of great people, and a lot of the contacts that I have in the business today that are my closest contacts, I developed when I was at Liberty Mutual. But one of the hardest decisions and one of the best decisions I made at one point was to just see what life was like on the outside. And I left Liberty and I went to the Hartford, and I spent a few years at the Hartford, and then I had some time at Hanover. I spent some time at a specialty company called Canopius, which I know you're familiar with. And every company is very, very good at certain things, but they all have a different recipe for success. And there's a lot of different ways to succeed in this business. And it's really benefited me to see different ways of doing business, different ways of managing operations. And, one thing that stuck with me as I've seen that is what's more important than the organizational structure or maybe the lines of business that are within your appetite or how you do certain things. It's the execution behind it. Maybe not any strategy, but a lot of different strategies can be successful in this business. There's no right formula if you have strong execution behind it. And so just developing the muscle memory there when it comes to your operating routine, how you stay close to what is happening with your people and not just your direct reports, but every level of the organization and understand the challenges that they're facing and then also motivate and hold people accountable for results. So which, sounds like a harsh sort of negative thing to say, but it's not. It's only fair to everyone that you manage the operation effectively and deliver on the goals that you set for the business. And I've learned a lot from each one of those companies about their formula and how they work. They are all very successful insurance companies in different ways.
Yeah, to your point, that which is measured is improved. For sure.
Absolutely.
It's not harsh at all.
Yeah.
So when you think about the varied stops in your career, what advice would you have for earlier career talent today in our industry that are experiencing maybe wanderlust. They're thinking the grass might be greener somewhere else. Any advice for them?
Yeah, the grass isn't always greener, and every company has its challenges. And I'm sure wherever you work, there are things about the company or your job that you wish you could fix or you wish was different. But number one, be a part of that. You can be a part of the solution, be proactive, share your ideas. Your leaders are looking for help in fixing those things and finding the right answers. And if you raise your hand and say, I have an idea, or maybe I don't even have an idea, I just want to be a part of, helping to make things better. You're going to be appreciated and recognized for that. And there's as much opportunity in your own backyard as there is anywhere on the outside. I think some people do themselves a disservice, and I know the world's changed, and I'll probably sound like an old man saying this, but I think some people do themselves a disservice when they jump around too fast and move around and get too itchy, and they don't learn enough about whatever it is that they're doing to develop that sort of foundation to build on. I do believe in this business. If you want to be really good at a senior level, you need to have a strong foundation. And in my case, I'm in underwriting. It's a bit of a technical foundation. It's technical underwriting and it's relationship management and relationship building. And I think if you haven't cut your teeth and spent enough time learning how to do that yourself, it's hard to lead other people in doing that.
I'm thinking about your early recruiting experience in Boston.
In that case, I stand by my decision. Yeah.
Why? Why? Understood.
Well, sometimes you do make a bad decision. I'm very grateful for that bad decision that I made at the time to join that particular company, because if not, I might not have gotten into insurance, and it definitely changed the trajectory of my career. And I'm glad I'm doing what I'm doing today. If I had joined a different recruitment company, might not have ever happened.
That's right. Well, thanks for being in our industry.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
John, are we ready to move on?
Sure.
All right. So I was lucky enough to be able to choose this song. And again, your playlist was amazing.
I agree.
Before I say too much, why don't I just ask Mariah if you can play the next clip? This was a tough one, even deciding on the clip for this.
Down your street, you're crying. It's a well-known sound. Your street is very well known throughout your town. Your town is very famous for the little girl whose crying can be heard all around the world.
So, Coleman, why this particular song?
Yeah, that's the Who, obviously. I think if you didn't recognize it, and it's a quick one, and I think it's they have so many great songs. I think the Who's fantastic. I think even though they're highly rated, everyone knows the Who. I think they get left out of the conversation that they should be a part of when people are arguing between the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and who the best rock band of all time is. I think that the Who, the Kinks, Velvet Underground, there's so many deserving bands, and the Who's is as good as anyone. And this song is just amazing. And this particular version, which I did specify, that we should play the version that's from the Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus, because it's a great, it captures them live and what they sounded like and how tight they were as a band and how just amazing their songs, which are great on the records come through in a live setting. And I did see the Who live as well, very late in their career. But what was awesome about this performance, and you should watch Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus and see it, see the video of
Oh,
them
I did
performing.
several
Oh,
times. It was great.
They're so tight as a band, and the story is great. This video, this movie that the Rolling Stones decided to shoot, they brought in a lot of great performers, and they had 24 hours of bands playing. Taj Mahal was there, John Lennon and Yoko Ono. Think about this as a super group: John Lennon and Yoko with um, um, Eric Clapton and Keith Richards as the Dirty Mac, and so many other great performers. But the idea was to build up towards the grand finale of the Rolling Stones, and they were the main event. But it didn't come out as a movie until the 90s because the Rolling Stones killed it, because the Who came on and just blew them off the stage. And in defense of the Rolling Stones, they were not on tour and they were not playing as tight as the Who were. But you can just see why, in a way, why they shelved it. They are they're so amazing in this song and in this video, and you can just see the talent come through. Pete Townsend and Keith Moon, they're all so charismatic, and Pete's jumping and doing his windmill guitar, and Roger's doing his thing. It's a fantastic live song, and it's the first one that was what they would eventually go on and do these rock operas with Tommy and Quadrophenia. This was like a teaser of what would become those big, long rock operas. This is like a mini rock opera. It's 9 minutes long, and it's maybe 5 different songs all stitched together in one epic little story, which is just interesting song.
So John, I don't know if you had a chance to watch the video. At one point, Keith Moon has his tom drum kind of positioned like this, and he's hitting it, I suppose, with a drumstick, but sideways, not on the drumming surface. And then he throws it across the stage, or off stage, perhaps. It's chaotic. It's fascinating. You're right. They're tight. I've never heard John Entwistle sing that clearly before. It was really amazing. It's also, so one, the reason I chose it, I was really intrigued. I chose it because I didn't know anything about this, and it was a fascinating read, a fascinating watch. Eddie Vedder also did a version of this with My Morning Jacket, and Green Day did a version. I don't know if you've heard that one. I have not. I've seen the Eddie Vedder video. I have not seen or listened to the Green Day bonus track on 21st Century Breakdown. But thank you again. Fascinating story, song, just a great conversation starter. So I couldn't pass this one up. Now I'm going to break it down into, it's a mini opera. There's several different parts, right? If you listen to it, it's fast, it's slow, it's acoustic, it's a cappella, it's all different things, right? When you think about the multiple components to this song, the different timing, the different arrangements, taking that a step further, how do you view your role as chief underwriting officer in making sure your varied programs are supported and they're able to demonstrate their expertise, and frankly, what they want to do is outperform their competition? So big question based off of the mini opera, but ultimately that is a little bit what you're doing, is you're orchestrating a mini opera.
Yeah, I love that. That's great, and I agree with everything you said about the song too. But yeah, it is. It's a good, another good analogy. It is a mini opera. You've got to be wearing a lot of different hats at one time, and I mean, I think my style of leadership is servant leadership, and my objective is to bring in good people and help them be successful. And that includes, as an extension of our business, any MGA partner that we're delegating our authority to. And they have their own objectives to meet, and they're responsible for bringing in the talent that is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. But how can I help you be as successful as possible in the market at doing what you know how to do and the expertise that you're bringing to the table? So whether it's the open market business that we write ourselves in church and nonprofit business, or the programs that we write, delegating our capacity in the market, the question I'm always asking is, what can I do to help those people be successful at what they know how to do? And a lot of people manage up in this business and spend a lot of their energy making themselves look good to their boss, or whoever it is. And that might get you by for a little while until people figure you out, and you lose good people, or you lose good partners externally because you're not the partner that they need. And so I see my role within the company and with the partners that we work with as, I'm here to help. I want to lead from the front, and I want to make sure we have the resources, whether it be technology, whether it be capacity, whether it be talent, whatever we need to be successful. There's the foundation there that's necessary. We just need to unlock it with the right tools and the right investments. So that's my juggling. When I'm juggling balls and trying to decide what to focus on, it's those things that are going to help the people that work for me or that are our external partners be successful. Those are the things that I want to spend my time on.
Good. Exciting times at the Mutual Group.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great metaphor for what you're trying to achieve there, and to your point, trying to manage all of the external and internal pieces into one tight rock opera, and underwriting profit and success. So it's really, really great. Really appreciate your time, Coleman. It was great to spend time with you and learn. Just for the audience's own edification, tell us how many albums you have.
I don't know the precise number. I'm still getting them into Discogs, so I can answer that more precisely. But I think it's about 1,300 from the estimate that I've made. I'm a little embarrassed to admit that, but I don't spend a lot of money on a lot of things. So my guilty pleasure when I just want to buy something is I buy records. So
It's fantastic. I mean, it's really you're the living embodiment of music is the soundtrack of our lives, right? And you've shown that in your song selection. We didn't even get into Velvet Underground and Sweet Jane, which you had, which was fantastic. Sugar Hill Gang, Rapper's Delight, one of my favorite all-time rap songs. I can still do it right now. Not that I'm going to, but I could still recite every word to it. And it's just a fabulous, it's just a fabulous chance to get, our audience to get to know someone who really understands music and insurance. And, this is really what this podcast is all about. So we really appreciate your time, Coleman. And thanks for making it for us.
well, I appreciate you guys having me. This is one of the most fun things that I've done in the insurance business. So, John, Connie, Mariah, like, honestly, I'm flattered to have been invited to do this with you guys. And I obviously enjoyed picking the songs and talking about them. It's a unique podcast that you guys are doing. We need more things like this in the insurance business to make it fun and a little bit more personal.
Well, thanks, Coleman. It's
Yeah,
great.
thank you for
It's great having you.